And after 30 minutes, we heard the whistle blow. So we woke up and everybody else woke up. We went all the way to the boats. By the time we reached where the boats were, people were being recorded and entering the boats. Once a boat would be full, it would be released. The next one would come close. People would be recorded. People would alight. It would be full. It would go. The next boat would come nearby. Names would be recorded. People would alight. And we were in the line queuing up to enter the boat. Finally, it was our turn. Our names were recorded. We entered the boat. They counted all of us and confirmed all of us were in the boat according to the list they had, and we started sailing. At this time it was getting to about 4 o'clock, and everybody in the boat was talking. We were talking what we had seen. There were people from all over the world, from Australia, from Asia, from America, from Indonesia. Apparently we were the only Africans. And we were like, God has given us an opportunity to see things that many people have never seen and will never see. And people in the boat were trying to know each other. So they would ask you, where do you come from? What is your name? And we went on socializing. And the boat, we went 1 hour. That was now 5 p.m. We went another hour. This was 6 p.m. And immediately, after our second hour, our boat started having problems. And the captain of the boat was trying to fix. We could see he was struggling to fix something. And the engine would go. And as it would go. We started getting worried. And the captain was busy trying to fix. He worked on the boat, he worked on it. All the other boats passed us. And now we could not even see any boat near us. And the captain kept on working on it. It was 6 p.m. It got to 6:30 p.m. And finally our boat went. The motor stopped working. And the captain tried to start it. And the boat could not start. Finally, the boat could not start at all. And the captain kept on trying to work on it. And he kept working on it. 7 p.m. It started getting dark. And the waves started becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So the boat would move one side and the other and the other. And we were holding on to the boat because we didn't want to fall. It was 8 p.m. And we had been warned before we left Ecuador in the morning that all boats must come back
to the port before 7 p.m. Because the water becomes very rough at night. And when we are far off from Ecuador, even navigating and getting in touch with the tower would be very difficult. And the waves became bigger. And we were moving. Water started coming into the boat. And as the water came, we were throwing off the water. And the captain sat down. He had given up. It was dark. The engine had stopped. The electrical system of the boat was not working anymore. So we were in darkness. We could not see anything. There was no light. All we could hear is the waves. Immediately, this was 9 p.m. People started throwing up. They were vomiting because of the waves. They started becoming seasick. And we started asking the captain, what becomes of us? And he said, there's no way we can reach the tower. We are still very far from the tower. And now I'm not even sure where we are. We cannot even know the direction of where we are going. Because the boat keeps turning and turning and turning. So we asked him, so what happens? And he just looked at us. And he said, there's nothing we can do. The people will find out we never got back. Because they have a record of all the people who came out. But they have no way of knowing where we are. And people kept on vomiting. The 2 started. 4, 5, 6. So everybody was and the captain was just sitting somewhere. 10 o'clock at night. And he said, I hope we are not near where there are lots of hippos and crocodiles. And even, no, they were not hippos, they were sharks and crocodiles. Because if the sharks get near us, they'll capsize the boat and swallow all of us. So there is nothing we can do. All we can do is sit and wait. As the captain finished telling us all we can do is sit and wait, and he started also. Everybody in the boat was throwing up. My daughter and I, we held each other tight. We were not vomiting ourselves. And we started praying. And my daughter said, Mommy, let us pray. Only God can get us out of this place. And we started praying. And we prayed. It was midnight. Everything was dark. All we could hear was the water and the waves. People had thrown up so much, vomiting. They were so weak, they were just lying. Because they were so weak because of throwing up.
Ko chi ka chui de long ko chi ka ngok.
The whole boat was full of vomit.
Boat ke leu che tiang de ngok.
But nobody cared anymore.
Ndo ta ram ne ngok ke dia.
And I started praying out loud.
Ne cho ko ma pa ne ka cho
I
di.
said, God save us.
Kala ne ko skan ko.
God save us.
Ko skan ko.
God have mercy upon us.
Ko sa tene ka kai lai ka ko.
It was 1 a.m.
Che cho ko ne ba ta kel.
And
Ta baro.
1 a.m.
Ta baro.
And as everything still was dark around us.
Wa den mo de titia cho kan ke ga ta.
There's nothing we could see.
Tale mu long ne ko da ne.
The captain had actually now slept.
Ger bo de chin da nyen.
People slowly were sleeping.
Ne dia ji wa mo to kan to.
And the waves still continued.
Mo da bang ba jang de.
And people were tired of even holding on.
Ne tu wan chi ke cha ga luang
They just allowed the boat to take them
Yang chi
wherever.
pa ro den boat ko nang ka wa wa ta.
2 a.m.
Cho ka ta ba da.
3 a.m.
Ta bang wan.
And everybody had reached a point and said, we are dying.
Ne dia chi ke chok wa den chi kana la ku ku lu no ko.
At about 3:30,
Ka ta bang wan ta ka jen jo.
as we were praying and I was praying out loud, God help us, God save us, God have mercy
Wa da
upon
pa
us.
ne ka jo mu di no ko skan ko loi du kai ko.
We know, God, you can help us through this one.
Ne wa ko di ne lo ko
I
ne.
don't know how, but God, I'm trusting you can see us through this
Kui
one.
ne dung dong ne no ne di ja ba ra de ne na.
Immediately, one lady who had come from the islands,
Apa da long chi ke
Pacific
cha.
Islands,
Ba ka ai ka dol mu ta ka Pacific.
said, look, look, look.
Ta wa ne.
We looked
Tu ne diel we.
and we saw a small light
Tu ne kwai mu to long tu ne.
very far away.
Mun na ne long.
And she said, Captain, wake up.
Ta wa ge je
Is
ya.
that a light there?
Ta wa ne mi chi kwai da.
And we all looked and said, yes, that's a light.
Tu ne diel we ke tu ne wa
Captain
a
woke
ka
up
ba
and he
boy.
was rubbing his eyes and says, which one?
Tu ge ra de je tu wa ka pu tu wa mi ne.
Where is the light?
Ja ni boy la jen.
And finally he was so, look there. No, there, right there.
Tu ne
Can
wa
you
de
see
ni
right
Chi
there?
kwai kwa mi.
And the captain looked
Chi ka pen cha kwai.
and looked again.
Cha nyau kwai nyau.
Looked again.
Cha kwai nyau.
And said, that's the lighthouse.
Cha wa na mo je dwe ne ta mai che ta.
That is Ecuador.
A je ni kwai do.
Let us go towards Ecuador.
A cha ne won ko ba no woten.
And he started on the boat.
Je to ko mu gere.
We all started doing it with our hands like
Ne
this.
nyau ba ka te ko ka
We are
ka
doing
ne.
with our hands
Ne
headed
ke
to
ka
where
te
the
ko
light
tu ne kwa
was.
ta boy ta.
And the boat would turn one way.
Na bo la ne ri du ku no.
But we would move it towards the light.
Ne nyau ri ku na boy
And the
ta.
light that was so far away,
An boy ta wa na nan.
it started getting closer and
Je
closer
to ko
and
mu mu
closer
ta ko mu
to us.
ta ka ne mu ta.
Closer and closer.
Wa mu ta ka.
And we used our
Ne
hands.
ge ne ka te
We
ko.
used anything we could, the
Ge ne
pedal,
ka wan ya ne
to
ne
go
ba.
to where the light
Ko ne wa kwa
was.
ta boy mo ta.
And as we got closer and closer
Wa ta
and
ko mu
closer
ta
to the
ka
light,
ka ta ne ta ka ne boy.
everybody was so excited.
Chi ne jen lo jen che no.
Now we could see lights in Ecuador.
An ta me chi ne boy Ecuador ne.
In the land, now we could see lights and houses.
Rai mon ba chu ne dun ne kana boy
But the
kan
big
ka.
light was still shining on us.
No boy di beren ne.
And we went towards the
Tu
light.
ne wa lo ne ne boy.
And as we went and got closer and closer and
Chi
closer,
ne wa chi ne ta ka chi ne wa mu tieng ne.
and closer and
Chi ne
closer
ti
and
ne. Wa
closer,
mu tieng ne ge je.
and closer and closer and closer, the people who were standing at the lighthouse,
Ne jan de chunga gwa mo.
the lifeguards,
Ne jen chiro de la ko
they
ka
saw us
ka.
and they started clapping.
Ku ko mo pa de
Hey!
te no ko kan.
You are finally back!
Chia chok kai chok.
5 a.m. in the morning!
Ta wal kel ba ka ru wa.
5 a.m. in the morning!
Ta wal kel ba ka ru wa.
We finally made it to the mainland.
Chi ne chu bi mon.
Why did we make it to the mainland?
Angu chu kene nei mon.
The lighthouse.
A boy chi ne ne duel boy.
We are all living a life in a troubled sea.
Kon ta ne re ye mu te re ga mu ji lo.
The life we are living today, we are living a life where we are in troubled waters. lot of suffering, a lot of pain, a lot of agony. Some people around us are giving up. Some people around us are so tired. But this is the life we are living. And we are told we will live. We read from the book of Revelation 22. Revelation 22 verse 7. That tells us, behold, I come quickly. Behold, I come quickly. God is reminding us He is coming back. When God comes back, we'll no longer be in this earth where we are in troubled waters. When God comes back, we will go to live with Him for eternity. The disciples of Jesus asked from the book of Matthew 24 verse 3. That Jesus, you're telling us you will come back. How will you know when you are about to come? What are the signs? And He told them 4 things. The first one, He said, when you hear war and hear rumors of war. Matthew 24 verse 3. You start from verse 3. And the first thing, there will be wars and rumors of war. The second thing He said, when there will be famine. The third thing, earthquakes. And the fourth thing, pestilence or diseases. And when all these things happen, then you know I'm about to come. And He says, verse 14, and He says, I come quickly. I want you to read that particular one, verse 14. But we are being told when all those things happen, Jesus will come again. I want to start with the wars. Wars and rumors of war. We know there is war in Russia and Ukraine. We know there is war in Israel, the Gaza and the Palestinians. In fact, it's on record as of today. There are 32 countries at war. In the whole world, 32 countries are fighting each other. When we talk about conflicts, from one community to the other, we have more than 300 conflicts between one tribe and the other. When you hear wars and you hear rumors of war, the wars are happening. We have heard of wars, we know of wars. Meaning the one thing that God said must happen, it has already happened. The second one is famine. For Kenya today, we have 15 million people who are starving to death because there is no food. For Ethiopia today, we have 23 million people without food. If we talk of Somalia, our neighbor, 60% of people in Somalia are facing famine. When we think of the whole world, we are thinking of 775 million people who are starving to death. They are having famine and having nothing to eat. This means the second thing Jesus told his disciples, that it has happened. Famine, people are starving. The third thing Jesus told them is earthquakes. We had earthquake actually in Nairobi, actually. 4 days ago. We had an earthquake in Guam last night. We had an earthquake in Papua New Guinea. We had an earthquake in the Philippines. We had earthquake in Peru. In Chile. In Panama. The last 3 days we have had more than 30 earthquakes. Which means the third thing Jesus told us, that there will be earthquakes before he comes. It has happened. And the fourth thing, he said, when it happens, you know I'm about to come back. It is pestilences or disease. All of us had about COVID. COVID swept the whole world. There is no country in the world that did not experience COVID. And COVID killed the young, the old. It killed the male, the female. It is on record that COVID killed 7 million people in the whole world. And the people that were infected were more than 300 million people. So when we talk about diseases, diseases have already happened. So the four things Jesus said, when the disciples asked, how will you know you're about to come? What signs can you tell us we'll see to know you're about to come? We have seen wars. We have seen pestilence. We have seen and heard of earthquakes. And we have seen and heard of famine. That all the things God said would happen, they have already happened. Yet we are still living in this world where we are in troubled waters. Remember I said our life in this world is like we are in a sea. In troubled waters, where there are high waves. Sometimes they want to swallow us. But these things will come to an end when Jesus comes. These things will come to an end when Jesus comes. So when we continue to suffer in this world, when we continue to ask God, how long will we continue to suffer? How long, God, will you continue to hide your face from me? How long, God, will I continue to be troubled in my mind? How long, God, will I continue to have so much pain in my heart? How long, God, will my enemies triumph over me? We know it will happen until Jesus comes. It will happen. It will continue to have these problems in this world until Jesus comes. We are told in the book of Matthew 24, 13, and I want you to read it. You You can read 13 and 14 because I've already talked about 14, about Jesus coming.
Okay, but we're talking one.
Start from 13.
Okay. Lara je karamu wata ke die la mele pekte ka de ba je kan. Ka ba su kwara ko su go ti la bi mon ke lew ko pine na ro lidial ka jen gurwa shuban.
We are being told that wickedness will continue to be more and more.
Ta kon joge ne chiang duere bo we mere bo ro de.
Which means we'll continue to suffer more and more.
You do kon wo bu kon wo ko mi shui kon.
But the person that will be saved,
Dum do ramen ba kan.
the only person that will be saved,
Ramen ba kan ka ro.
the only person that will be saved
Ramen ba kan ka ro de.
will be the one that stands firm.
Wa ramu chi chongo bo.
The one who stands firm up to the end
Ramen ta ke die le mere good.
will be the one to be saved.
Aja ramen ba kan.
That if you remain faithful to God up to the end,
Mi chi mo de la gwan nga ta ka ko mere gwa den job.
then you will be saved.
Jen ba ji chu kan.
We are reminded
Ta je tiam kon.
that Jesus is going to come again.
Ano ye chu ba lu jo nyok.
And some people ask themselves,
Tana la ko den ti ka ro.
what do I need to be saved?
Amu go ro mo ko de ku la kan.
What do I need to do to be saved?
Amu mi de lat ko de kan.
I want to say being saved is only 3 steps.
Te ga ka dang jok.
3 steps only.
Te ga ka dang jok ro.
The first step
Ka dang nyam.
is to accept what Jesus has done.
Awo bi men ti ye chu lat ko bi du bi je no.
And what Jesus has done
Men ti ye chu lat.
is He sent His only begotten Son,
Ko cha ka de man tel ko ro mo.
that whosoever believes in Him
Ko ramu wa je ngas.
should not perish but have everlasting life.
Cha bi le du no ba te ka tek mo do.
John 3:16.
Ka jon chu do ko.
So, and when you believe what God has done in your life,
Munga di men ti ko la re te ka du.
you are able
Bi di te ko long.
to acknowledge
Ko bi je ngas.
that the penalty of sin
An wo ko bi ro.
is no longer with you.
Je la mo tel ke je.
So that is what we call, theologians use big words
Ji theology la ka ri ji la kan ka lat.
and they call that justification.
La kan no mo la kan a chole mo chuo.
That accepting what Jesus did on the cross for you.
Look do kamen ti kwari ye chu la Georgia.
That God's death on the cross
Ya ko Georgia.
has been able to remove the penalty of sin in your life.
Be ko bi ro be je wo re te ka du.
The second thing you need to do
Ma ra do man go re blat.
is what God is doing in your life right now.
Amen let ko za ta re te ka du.
What God is doing in your life right now.
Amen let ko za ta re te ka du.
We read from the book of John 17:17.
Ka John cho wel baro bas wel baro.
I want you to read it.
John cho wel baro bas wel baro. La re jene. Jene le ni karo. Ko ro du so. Le ni karo. Ko ro du so.
That we are being reminded
Ta je tiam kon lo.
what God is doing in our lives.
Man let ko da re te ka dan.
That we are saved by grace through faith.
An wo cha kon kan ka pos ba ko cha kon kan kangas.
That what God is doing for us now
Man let ko da ko pi dan an tam
is removing the power of sin in our life.
wo wo de long bira re te ka dan.
Removing the power of sin in our lives.
Wo de long bira re te ka dan.
When He removes the power of sin in our life,
Ka gwa de long bira wo de re te ka dan.
then we are just sanctified.
Ba chu la re cha kon le.
A big word the theologians use,
Re de di la ji theology ala
sanctification,
le
which is able to explain what God is doing for us now.
nu do kon man let ko da an tam re te ka.
Paul said, I die daily.
Ti bo la re no ya wo ni siang.
And even in the Lord's Prayer,
Re pa la man ti ye chu kam ji ko ara.
we pray for strength from day to day.
Pal kon ka pi lo ni siang.
That God is doing in our lives today
Ko man let ko da wa la re te ka dan.
through His grace when we accept Him by faith.
Ka pos bang de mi si kon no ka
He
ngas.
removes the power of sin from our lives.
Ba long bira wo de re te ka dan.
the last thing salvation is about is what God will do in our lives.
Amen.
What God will do in our lives. That we are told in the book of Thessalonians 4:13 and 14 that when Jesus comes, all eyes will see him. That Jesus is coming again. That when Jesus comes again, he will remove the presence of sin. And it is called by the theologians glorification. So we are saying what God has done in the past by his son Jesus Christ dying on the cross for our sins. We are talking what God is doing in our lives today. That through faith, through his grace and accepting him by faith, he removes the presence of sin, he removes the power of sin over us. And what God will do in future, that behold, I come quickly. That he says he's coming back again. And when he comes back again, he will remove the presence of sin in our lives. So this is what salvation is. That though you are in troubled waters, though you are struggling and you are in suffering and you are in difficulties, you want to say, God, I accept you for your son who died on the cross. I accept you by faith today, and I am looking forward for your soon return. This is what salvation is. What God has done, what God is doing, and what God will do. Removing the penalty of sin by Jesus dying on the cross. Removing the power of sin by accepting him by faith. Removing the presence of sin by us waiting and that blessed hope for his second return. The book of John 14:1 and 14:1 to 3. I would want us to read it. 14:1 up to 3.
Kajon cho 1 basket waka jok jana no kunchi dia na da kos kan azaba tare chen gwar ka bil to wan kami che jana no de jana la ye an wo wa ko wo ba gwa zo de leka ko pidun kami ba wa ka ba gwa samo wa de leka ko pidun an ba le lu ni jok an ba le lu jok ka ba ye ban nang ala ne ka ko da yen wa ta gwa zin ta sin ba.
We are told that let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And when I prepare that place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself. So where I am, there he may be also. I don't know whether somebody is saying, I want to give my life to Jesus. Accepting Jesus' death on the cross. Accepting him by faith each and every day. And living with a blessed hope that he will come again. I don't know whether somebody is saying, because this is my desire. And I have realized that I'll continue to suffer in this world. But when Jesus comes, all suffering will end. And I want when Jesus comes to take me to heaven. I don't know whether one is saying here today, because this is my desire to accept Jesus, to wait for Jesus without hope,
ba ja liep ka ja nga mo
to accept that Jesus died on the cross for my sin,
ba ja no no ji ye chu liu jo ja ko pi de
I want that to be seen
ka go ro ba ja nen
by being baptized today.
ka bo ni da
I want to be baptized
na ga je no ba bo
because I want to accept Jesus,
ka no ka ko ni Yesu
that he died for
ai
me,
wo je liu ko pi da
that he lives in me,
je chen rai da
and that he'll come back for me.
ka bo lu jo ko pi
I
da
want to be baptized because I believe in Jesus,
go ro ba bo ko nga da
and I
Yesu
want people to know I have accepted Jesus.
ka go ro ba na da nga je Yesu
My accepting Jesus is not a secret.
no da ka Yesu chi ma ba la ke
My
da
accepting Jesus is something I want to do that people can know what is in my heart.
no da ka Yesu ma ba la ko ba na da kula nga ji mo
And
da rai ba
therefore, I want to be baptized today.
ko no go ro ba bo nyen wala
I want to be baptized today.
go ro ba bo nyen wala
Because we are told that we should not let our hearts be troubled.
ko cha ko jo ga lo ko chi dia
Though the waves are big,
a chang di mang long ba
though there's a lot of trouble in your
a
life,
chang ga rai ti ka du ka ri tu mo
there's a lot of uncertainty in your
ka
life,
ti ga ngwan ti chi nga da ba rai
there's
ti
a
ka
lot
du
of problems in your
ti ga
life.
ri tu mo na no rai ti ka du
You're saying you'll keep focused on the light.
na no ba ku ni boy ka ra
The light of Jesus.
ba ku ni boy Yesu
You remain focused and look at Jesus.
bi ni jin ko bu ni jin ka
Because
ni
when
bi
you
Yesu
look at
ko
Jesus,
ko gwa da bi Yesu
you
ko
will not sink.
chi bi ding
When you look at Jesus,
gwa da bi ni Yesu
the waves will not swallow
chi
you.
bang ji bu ta
When you look at Jesus,
gwa da bi ni Yesu
you get closer and closer to Him,
bu ni jin ga mi ti ga ti
and
ga ja no
closer and closer to
bu ni jin ga mi
Him,
ti ga ja no
until He comes
a
again
ni mi ba lu ja
and
no
He'll take you to
ka
heaven.
bi ni na no na